Alright, so this is a continuation from our lesson from period 2A this morning. We started creating our front wall here, where we added in our studs, our king studs, jack studs, and we started at the end of class, or ran out of time, unfortunately, of putting in our headers. So we're going to finish up this part of the lesson by adding in our headers, both for the door and the windows. We're going to add in our sill plate across the bottom here, and then we're going to add in our cripple studs below the sill plate, our cripple studs above the header on both the door and the window. So I'm going to start by going in over the window here and adding a 2x8 header here. So looking at our Properties tab, I have my 2x8 dimensional lumber here. What I'm going to do first is go into my project browser, go to my first floor, and what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to draw in my header in the first floor view. Now the key here is I want to make sure my header, if you look at the properties on this, I have my header set at 7 feet as a Z offset value, and I have, basically there's two headers there. There's one that's going to be towards the front and one towards the back. So we have to do a Y offset on each one I put in. One is going to be a -1 inch, and one is going to be a +1 inch. So what I'm going to do here is under structure, I'm going to do a beam, 2x8 dimensional lumber, and over my window, here's my window area. I'll change this font a little bit, and it's not font, but my scale here. I'm going to go to 1 inch equals 1 foot, so you can see the word window. And what I'm going to do is, this is my jack stud. Okay, jack studs on the inside, king studs on the outside. So I'm going to start on the outside edge of my jack stud at the midpoint right here, end point of that line. Then I'm going to drag across the screen to the other end point. Now I'm going to give this warning, note you created elements that are visible in other floor plans. This is where I'm going to go in and look at my 3D view. So here's what I just added in. The problem I have right here is we have an error. We haven't adjusted this stud yet. We'll get there. The jack stud needs to be butted down just below this level here. Okay, we also need to make sure that this header is actually going to come forward or back. So where I have here, where it's at 7 feet, I'm going to say the Y offset value is at 1 inch. Now what that will do when I apply this is it pushes that one to the back, which makes it flush to the back edge of our stud here, basically our king stud. Okay, now I'm going to repeat this pattern one more time. I'm going to go to my first floor. I'm going to again go into my structure, create a beam, make sure it's 2x8 dimensional lumber, and again, from the edge of the jack stud to the other end of the jack stud, I'm going to go ahead and place another 2x8 header beam. Go back to my 3D view and close this out. You're going to see this kind of overlapped. Well, that's because I have to take this beam and move it forward. In this case, to do forward, I have to do -1 inch in the Y offset value. So I'm going to put in here -1 inch. And now that'll prop forward to where now it's flush with here. Okay? Now the problem I have is this stud is in the way. We need to drop this stud down. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to reference this jack stud over here. And what I have is I need to take a top offset. That means I need to take it from here, the top end. I need to shrink it down to this level here by -2 feet, 1.5 inches. So I'll go to this stud right here, and I'm going to do this in the 3D or three-dimensional view. I'm going to take the top offset to -2 feet, 1.5 inches. And what you'll see here is now the stud is at the bottom, the jack stud, at the bottom of my header plate. I'm going to do that on the other side also. Go here where it says top offset, excuse me, -2 feet, 1.5 inches. Now, once it's applied, there you go. It's now underneath. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to look at my south elevation to make sure everything looks good. So under my project browser, I will go to my elevation views, and I'm going to double click on south elevation. So this is what I'm looking at. So now those headers or the jack studs are right underneath here. What I need to do next, though, is I need to go with what are called cripple studs. And I need to put cripple studs above each of these headers because they're not full headers. A full header would be from here, a solid block of wood, all the way to the double top plate. Since we're not doing that, we're going to go with what are called cripple studs. To do that, what I'm going to actually do is I'm going to go ahead and copy this jack stud. Now, you're probably going, why would you do that if it's too short? What we're going to do is we're going to copy this 16 inches on center, and then we'll go back and we'll adjust it so that it fits within this area right here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use my copy tool. I'm going to grab the center of this, and I'm going to pull it to my right and type in 16 shift double tick mark inches. And I'm going to repeat that to make sure I fit them all in there. So I'm going to do it again, 16 inches tick mark. Now, there's no way I'm going to fit another one in here, so I'm going to stop at this point. So there are my two cripple studs. The problem is right now I need to change their properties so they're actually above my header point. Okay? So the base offset here, what I'm going to do in here is I'm going to put this at -3 inches on the top. So that's going to shoot it back up. But on the bottom, I'm going to make this, I'm going to actually take this stud right here and have it from the bottom elevation here. I'm going to push it up to this level. Now I'm going to start with some numbers here. I'm going to go in here and try 6'10". This is 8 inches more, so we're thinking 7 feet 6 inches, 6.5. So I'm going to try right here 7 feet 6.5. I'm a little bit short. It's about 1/2 inch. So I'm going to actually do 7 feet 7 and try that. Nope. Looks like a little bit more. 7 feet 7.25. 7 1/4. Let me try that one more time. 7 feet 7.25 inches. And there we go. That looks really good. Now, if you really wanted to, instead of trying to do this on both, I'm actually going to delete this one. I'm going to come back to here, and I'm actually going to highlight this and copy that one. And I'm also going to copy it over to the other side here in a moment. Okay, so what I'm going to do here is go copy. I'm going to grab the center, pull to my right 16 inches, and hit enter. So now I have two cripple studs above my header of the door. Now on this side, I'm going to do the same thing. I'm actually, instead of copying one of these, I can kind of start this one the correct way. But what I'll do is I'll do the same process I just did on the door. It's the safest way to go to make sure everything is actually 16 inches on center. So I'll start with my jack stud. I'm going to do a copy. I'm going to go over, I'm just going to copy one today. I'm going to go over here and go 16 inches, enter. I'm going to hit escape. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to set this one where the top offset is -3 inches. That extends it up. Whoops, maybe not. I wasn't out of my tool. Delete that. Click on this one again. Top offset, -3 inches. Again, 3 inches is 1.5 plus 1.5. Okay. And then we go to the bottom offset and make that 7 feet 7.25 inches. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to copy this 16 inches on center. So I'll highlight my cripple stud, copy, click on the middle, move to my right, 16 inches, enter. Do it again, 16 inches, enter. And it doesn't really go any further because 1.4 will put me right on the opposite side. So there are all my cripple studs above my window. Now we're almost done with this. If I go in here and look at this, and one of the things I'm going to actually do here is I'm actually going to take one of these and right click. And I'm going to go into hide in view. I'm going to hide this category because when I double click my middle mouse button, I would like this to go full screen. So now I can see this every single time when I double click my mouse button. What I want to do next is I want to add a sill plate here. Okay, and it's going to be a double sill plate. We're actually going to do 2. And then underneath that we'll put some cripple studs that will match these cripple studs above. So what I have to do is actually go to my first floor. I'm going to do a 2x4 plate. So I'm going to go into my structure, beam, 2x4 plate, and across my window. Now this one doesn't go, there's no jack stud underneath it. This one is actually going from inside of jack stud to inside of jack stud. Now it's going to be this warning. Again, I have to look at my 3D view. Now, the problem I have here is it shot this one up to this level because I did not change my properties. So I go into my properties here and I highlight that beam I just added in. Hit escape here. There's my beam. The problem is the start level and offset level, it actually says the Z offset here is at 7 feet. I actually need that Z offset at approximately 2 foot 6 inches. So there's my sill. Now I'm going to go into my south elevation because this window is going to be 4 feet tall. So I'm going to actually go to annotate, aligned, from header to top of sill. So make sure you get right in there. I'm at 4 feet 4.5. So I actually need to take this sill plate and move it up 4.5 inches. So when I highlight this, I'm actually going to go here and add 4.5 inches. So instead of 2 foot 6 on my Z offset, I will do 10.5 inches. Now my window is 4 feet in height. Exactly where I want it to be. Now, for the next one, I'm actually going to have to go in here and add another one. Now, I can't just copy these. Okay, what I have to actually do is I have to subtract 1.5 inches off of the height here. So what I'll do is my next one I put in, I'll make the offset Z value at 2 foot 9. Okay, so I'll go back to first floor, structure, beam, 2x4 plate, and I'm again from the edge of my jack stud, right here at the end point, pull straight across to the other end point. But in this one, I want to make the Z offset value from 7 feet to 2 feet 9 inches. It gives me that warning because it was saying it was interfering with something, but if I go to my 3D view, you should see, oops, it didn't make the correction. I'm going to go here again. Didn't take that 2 foot 9, 2 feet 9 inches. And what you'll see now is I have a double sill plate, one on top of the other. Go to my south view, there's the second sill plate. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my jack stud again here, and what I'm going to do is go through, and I actually can measure this out. I'm going to actually do an annotate and align views. I want to know what the distance from the bottom of my sill plate to the top of my sill plate. It's 2 feet 7.5 inches. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to have to take 1.5 inches off the bottom, do another 2 feet 7 inches. So what I'll have to do is I'll have to do a Z of 2 feet 9 inches. And it'll make sense in a second when I start putting this in. So I'm going to go to structure. I'm going to go ahead to column. No, not column, excuse me. I'm going to take my jack post, make it easy on myself. I'm going to do a copy. I'm going to click on the midpoint of this. I'm going to move it to my right 16 inches, enter. I'll go this way, and it's up to you. I just want to just do one. You could do them all and adjust them, but I'm just going to do this one. And I'm going to adjust the Z axis. I'm going to do the top offset. In this case, I need to really shrink it down. So I'm going to start with like 7 feet, see what that looks like. So I'm going to go minus 7 feet, see where that goes. That's way too short. So I'm going to draw negative 6 feet, too tall. So it looks like we got, what, 3 inches plus probably another 1.5 inches. So that's 4.5 inches. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do 6 foot 4.5 inches. And it looks like we're dead on now. So there is my cripple stud below my sill plate. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this now cripple stud, copy, and what I'm going to do is move to the right 16 inches, enter, move it again to the right 16 inches, enter, Try to move to the right. It looks like 1'4" is going to overlap onto this stud here, so we are done. I'll hit escape, double click my middle mouse button, and at this point, the front wall is complete. So at this point, go ahead and save your current project, and then we'll carry on in the next video on how to make the right side wall.